everybody, welcome to this week's Roundup. Before I begin, I just wanted to ask, do any of my fellow nerd friends have experience with LibreElec Kodi builds for Raspberry Pis? I was hoping to make a very minor change and then have an ISO compiled so that I could just do some testing to make things easier on people for an upcoming video I'm doing that I'm really excited about. But as everybody knows, the easier it is to make something happen, the more people will actually do it. So I'm hoping to test an idea of mine before I continue to nag the Kodi developers. But if you have the ability to do that, please reach out, whether it's in the comments or any other way to get a hold of me. And I'd love to run a quick experiment, but the video is going to come out within about a month either way. And I'm very pumped for this one. And if you have a PC CRT monitor, hopefully you'll be just as excited as me. But anyway, let's jump in and see what's been going on in the past week. First up, Nintendo has just opened pre-orders on those Switch and Switch 2 accessories that essentially turn it into a Virtual Boy. The first one looks like a very awesome kit that actually looks like a Virtual Boy. It's got the same stand and the same style front, and you slide either the Switch 1 or 2 into it, and it tries to recreate the same experience, and that's about $100 plus shipping. But there's also a $25 cardboard one that, sort of looks like a Virtual Boy, but it's really just meant to get you the same end result, but without the fancy stuff with it. So I love it. I love that there's options here. Because I like the Virtual Boy, I bought both, even though most likely I'll probably do a live stream with both the day it arrives, spend a couple hours playing, and then never play it again, just have them back up on my shelf or something. But whatever, I was kind of pumped about it. Now, the thing that you need to know is you have to have an actual Switch Online membership. I did not, so I tried to get the free trial and couldn't buy either of them. So if you're like that and you end up trying the same thing or you accidentally tried the same thing, you don't have to wait for the free trial to end. Just go to the page that I linked, or at least for anybody in the US, the page that I linked right in the post, and you can just buy a membership right there. And I basically spent, I bought a yearly membership just to be able to do this. So that essentially means I spent $150 just to get some fun Virtual Boy accessories and probably play Virtual Boy for a couple of minutes on my Switch, which I probably should not have wasted that money on it at all. But, maybe I'd like to tell myself that I did this for you so I could do the live stream. But the truth is, I get suckered in for stuff like this because while the mini emulation consoles and stuff, those are cool. And I certainly liked having the opportunity to play with those. I didn't feel the need to keep them. But I think that this is going to be just a fun one to really just enjoy on my shelf and know that I don't ever have to worry about redoing the ribbons or any of the crazy stuff from the original. And I could just have this fun, silly toy to mess with like that. But anyway, if anybody is interested in this, they should still be available for pre-order. Both are shipped due to ship in mid-February, about the same time that Virtual Boy games are added to the Switch Online library. And for any software devs, has Nintendo mentioned anything about allowing stuff like this for their actual store? Because I would really love to see some of those modern Virtual Boy games that were made with the VUE engine. I forgot how you're supposed to say it, but I'd love to see that as a game you could actually purchase on the Switch and then just have like a 2D and 3D mode and you'd be able to use one of these. Or I guess if this $25 adapter works, pretty much any 3D adapter for the Switch would work. So I'd love to see that too. But I don't know, just throwing that idea out there. Links to everything are right in the post. Next up, 2 Sega Saturn ODEs just got firmware updates. The first one is for the Fenrir Lite, not the original Fenrirs, and it fixes bugs that prevented Fenrir Loader Kai, which is a port of pseudo Saturn Kai, from loading games. So that's important if you want to use any of those extra features, and definitely a worthy update. And just a quick aside, the Fenrir Lite is the latest version of the hardware from SED that should support all models of the Sega Saturn and is priced cheaper as well, which is awesome. Also, the Saroo got a new firmware update that adds support for playing CD plus G formats, some extra tools, and support for 2-player controllers. So you could use your second controller to operate within the Saroo interface, and it's got some bug fixes and game fixes. Now, this is not the same as the other recent firmware that was updated that we basically just warned you to not use unless you're a dev that knew what you were doing, because it could potentially have some issues. This is different from that, supposedly, so you should be able to just update if that's something you want to use. But if you want any more details, please check out Dan's post with all of the links and info in there, and it's just very cool to see updates continue for these. And since we're already talking about Saturn ODEs, I figured I would jump over to this post about the Saroo, in where Trekkies Unite created a piece of software that essentially runs a CD loading checksum loop over and over to try and find the source of some issues that have been found with the Saroo. And this test basically just runs an infinite amount of times. On a mod shipped Saturn, the Satiator, the Fenrir, the Phoebe, the Mr. Core, and YabuSave software emulator, there are 0 checksum failures, even after running thousands of tests. However, the Saroo, after about 3.5 hours, had 12 checksum failures. So this could be the source of some of the issues that have been seen with it. And Trekkies Unite just wanted to make it clear, like, there's no issue with the Saroo. Trekkies doesn't hate the Saroo or anything like that. Trekkies is just trying to bring to light the source of the problems. So hopefully that the developers could identify exactly why the checksum failures are happening and fix it. So this is cool. I love deep dive nerding like this. I love when other members of the community jump in to help with other problems. So if anybody wants to look further into this, it would be cool to get this solved, because the Saroo is just awesome for so many reasons. And it's not everybody's solution for the Saturn, but it offers so much that I do think people who are hardcore into it and want to use original hardware and have the ability to do these things will probably pick one up anyway, just for a lot of the other features that it has as well. But getting things ironed out and getting it as accurate as possible is always a goal that I hope most developers have. So thanks to Dan for writing the post, of course, and also thanks to Trekkies Unite 118 for doing this. And if you're a Saturn dev or just a fellow nerd like me that thinks stuff like this is neat, definitely check out the post. Zaxor is now selling a power supply replacement for top-loading CDi consoles. So that's the Philips or Magnavox 450 or 550s that have the large external brick that plugs into the wall, but also uses a network cable to plug into the CDi. Odd choice. No idea why they would have thought that was a good idea back then. But anyway, Zaxor was able to make one out of brand new parts that still requires a power brick. So you have to have, you could buy one of the triads that are listed here if you want one that definitely works and has been thoroughly vetted. Both North American and international versions are here. Or if you want to try your own, you just have to have a 12 volt, 2 amp center positive with a 5.5 by 2.1 millimeter barrel jack. All that's in the post if you want to look it up and just kind of try your own. And also to connect it from this PSU to the CDi, you're going to want a very short network cable, but it's going to be a standard network cable, not a crossover cable, and as short as possible. And this is one of those scenarios in which you probably have exactly what you need already at your house. But if it were me personally, I would just buy the $5 cable linked here that Zaxor has already vetted to make sure there's nothing weird going on with it. Because while I love to save people money and not have people spend more, $5 for something that, if you short your CDi out, good luck trying to repair it. I would definitely err on the side of caution and just pick that up as well. And it's cool. The case design looks like a CDi controller. Obviously, there's no button functionality. It's just a cool look to it, but it's just a device where it's got the barrel jack input for your triad PSU or whatever compatible one, and the network jack out on this. You could purchase it as a complete unit for $50, or if you want to print your own case for it, you can get it naked for $35. And yeah, I mean, for me personally, if I still had the CDi top loader that I owned, the one that Jose did the full RGB install into, and it was running great, I would personally buy this with, I already have triads that are compatible, but I would buy this and I would buy the Ethernet cable, and I would only use this one, knowing that the original is probably not going to last very much longer, and knowing how deep Zaxor goes in his power supply designs and how he really tries to make these equal to or better than the originals in every way. This is, power supplies from Zaxor are usually the exception to my rule of I never want to use third-party PSUs, especially combined with something like a triad, which isn't the world's best power supply, but is consistently vetted and consistently equal to or better than originals. So yeah, for me personally, if I still owned that one, I would be using this, so that way I could just preserve all the original stuff as long as possible. But if I say that out loud and you're listening and going, that's stupid, I already have a power supply that works perfectly, why would I want this? That's a perfectly acceptable thing to think. I'm not trying to push anybody into this. I just know that for my luck, if I didn't buy this one, my power supply would die the moment these went out of stock. So I just know how my luck goes. And I wanted to share my silly anecdotes with you all just to put that into perspective. But if you're interested, check it out. And if not, at least you know that these exist. So if you have a friend with a top-loading CDi, you could point him in the right direction. Tito from Macho Nacho Productions just did a video highlighting a brand new IPS kit for the PSP 3000, very specifically that model, the PSP 3000, because previously there were screen replacements for other models, but not this one. And this is a drop-in replacement that's $50, and you don't need to solder anything at all. You basically just unbolt everything. This kit slides right into the same slots, and there are a few quirks, like you have to make sure that you slide in one of the ribbons properly, even though the door may or may not close on yours. You'll see in the video. And also, I do want to reiterate a point that Tito made in the video, and I talked about this in the post as well. There's one point where Tito takes a sharp knife and starts to remove the original screen, the laminated screen. And then once Tito gets it removed a little bit from there, he uses a spudger to very carefully just get the rest of it off. And when I was watching that, I got PTSD from all of the times I did the same thing and broke it. Not with the PSP, but the same exact scenario in which, all right, you have it started, it's starting to peel up, and I get lazy and impatient, and I go, okay, it's already peeled up, and I just pull and snap something. Sometimes you get lucky and you just snap the screen and you go, okay, close call, let me go back to doing it the patient way. But often you actually break whatever it is that you're trying to remove it from. So don't be a moron like me, have some patience. And if you get super bored, just put it down, go get a glass of water or a snack or something, come back, and then just patiently just work it all around until you get it off without damaging the original. Tito goes over this, but yeah, and maybe everybody listening is going to go, yeah, of course, we already know that. But I've broken enough stuff over the years that I just felt the need to tell you all and hopefully warn you against it. There's also some differences in how the screen looks, so you might prefer it or not prefer it, but it's one of those things where if you have a broken or dying screen, this is pretty much your only choice and a good choice. But if your screen's in great condition, I don't know, check out Tito's video and see if this is something you'd want to buy or buy and hold on to and as a backup. I don't know. Check out the video and see what you think. The OSSC Pro just got a firmware update that adds support for custom Lumacode palettes, which is really, really important because Lumacode is a much easier way to get digital output from 8-bit consoles and computers, and a bunch are supported right now. And you run the Lumacode output into a number of devices, but two of them are the OSSC and OSSC Pro, and then that generates the digital HDMI signal. But with consoles like the NES or even the Atari 2600, there is no correct palette. And this is the age-old argument of, is the sky blue or purple in the original Super Mario world? And the answer is yes, because it depends on whatever TV you were watching it on back in the day, or I guess now if you're still using CRTs like me. So being able to select which color palette you want is a crucially important thing to have. Now, Mark has added this support in, but we still need people in the community to actually convert NES and other color palettes to this format. So this is more of a call to action post and less of a heads up, because we need smart people in the community to step up. And I don't know if it's easy to build a tool that could just automatically convert whatever NES color palette, you drop it into the tool and it converts it to this format, or if you would need to manually convert each one. But for anybody out there with lots of experience in this, anybody on the Mr. team, of course, the developer Infidelity, who adds all of these to the NES to SNES ports, if anybody out there has a moment, please take a look at this and see, because this is a big deal. Basically, anybody that uses Lumacode in an OSSC Pro would absolutely benefit from something like this. And I would start with NES and maybe Atari 2600 and kind of just go from there. But yeah, I'm a big fan of all of these things, and hopefully I'll have time in the somewhat near future to really dig into Lumacode and see what else it could do, because I have a few things that I wanted to test and kind of just push it to its limits and see what else I could find out about it. But if anybody knows how to do the palette conversion, please step up and give us a hand and see what we can do with it. Firebrand X has just released remastered music for Final Fantasy VII's Steam port that should just be a drop-in replacement for the original, and it's kind of an interesting story. So this goes all the way back to a decade ago where FBX had tried to remaster the music for it and was able to do so in a way where it didn't cut off some of the audio like it did in the original Steam tracks. And this all goes back to an old hard drive that the late developer Near had sent FBX, and to store some of the stuff, to get some SNES scans on it. And FBX found that drive and was able to find the original rips on it and then continue to finish the remaster and get it all working to drop in place. So the whole story is in a couple of fully public posts on Patreon if everybody wants to check it out. Of course, consider supporting FBX if you have the ability to and you want to support work like this. But it's just a kind of a neat story with a bunch of throwbacks into it that just ends in, if you have the 2012 Steam release of Final Fantasy VII, now you have better music for it. So check out everything in Alex's post, and thanks to FBX for doing this, and a late shout out to Near and a thank you for helping out with the hard drive that led all these years later to this. So kind of a cool story. I finally had time to watch the latest documentary from My Life in Gaming as well as GameSack called Pixels to Pages, The Story of Electronic Gaming Monthly. And what an awesome documentary. Such a great story, such a unique cast of characters, some awesome stories from back in the day, some very cool footage. And it was just really neat to see how all of this came about, to see who the secret writers were, no spoilers or anything like that. But this one was awesome. I really enjoyed it. And I guess they'd been working on this since 2018. So the interviews and the footage were mostly that old. There's an awesome drone shot in the beginning that Joe was able to get. And this is just one of those that I wish I'd watched it on day one. I just, I do these things as time allows, of course. And as soon as I started it, I started messaging all of these guys, Mark, Corey, and Joe. And by the time it ended, I was like, oh, this is absolutely awesome. And, would you please write a post on RetroRGB about it? Because for stuff like this, I often think it's better to be written by the creators in their own words. I'm happy to write posts on it, but I don't want to until I actually watch it, because I don't want to miss anything. I want to come in here and talk to all of you with the genuine excitement that I have for this. I don't want to fake it through and be like, yeah, there's a new documentary, I guess it's cool. Like, I really liked it. And I think if you'd ever read an EGM ever, you'd probably be, and you like video games and video game history, you'd probably be interested in watching this. But if you were a regular reader, this is a definite must watch, and it flew by. I started watching it thinking like, okay, I'll watch a couple of minutes now, and then maybe I'll watch more in the background as I can. But I didn't move off my couch the whole time. The only times I even paused it were to message the crew that made it, just with my own excitement. So yeah, this is awesome. I strongly recommend it. Quick backstory is up on RetroRGB, but just go directly to the video and check this one out, because awesome documentary, and I really enjoyed it. The developer Jacques Gagnon, aka Darth Cloud, has just announced that they've stopped development on Blue Retro, which is an incredible piece of open source software that allows you to connect modern controllers and peripherals like mice and stuff like that to many different types of retro consoles. Now, this was just a heads up that, hey, they're done with this project. They took it really far, and now it's continuing to be open source, and anybody, as long as they go by the open source rules, can fork it and do whatever they want with it. So by no means is Blue Retro dead. Your existing devices aren't instantly going to stop working. They're all going to work exactly as well as they do now. But Darth Cloud is just kind of looking for somebody else to pick up the slack for any updates, added controller support, and any new versions for other consoles that haven't been done and stuff like that. So, I think this is very cool. I love to see projects like this that evolve as big as this did, but also this was always an open source thing. So Darth Cloud could have walked away at any time, and I think we should all be very appreciative that they waited until it's a pretty darn stable platform before saying, okay, I'm done with this one, on to the next thing. So a shout out and thank you to Jacques for doing this. And once again, if you have or are about to buy any Blue Retro products, they're still awesome. It's just any further development's going to have to come from other people. So thanks very much for all the awesome work, and check out the details in Alex's post. Now it's time for my ridiculous review of the week, a humidifier. But I actually didn't even care to do the video about the humidifier. The video was really about the filters, but I couldn't just do a video on filters, so I kind of went the whole distance. But the truth is, this really is the best humidifier I've ever used for bedrooms, and the filters itself are the issue. First of all, on the good side of things, the main ones that sit in the water last so much longer than every other humidifier. When I was in the city, I had one that would last about a week and a half, and they were like $20 a piece. So I mostly just had dry and cracked skin the whole time because I couldn't afford to keep swapping the filter out. But these last like a month, even in the middle of the winter. You just got to let them soak every time you switch them out. I usually clean it out with dish soap like I showed, let them soak, and that's it. But on the flip side of things, the air filter that's in there, I've been using those ever since I got it, and I don't even know if they work. Maybe I'm just getting suckered into something that says filter your air and breathe better. But more importantly than that, I have no idea how it goes in. There's no information on the box. There's no information on their website. There's no information anywhere out there. So I've just been kind of jamming them in there and just saying, all right, well, hopefully I got it right. And this time I was just like, you know what? Let me call their support and see, because I searched their website again, and there's a bunch of people on their website asking the question that is not answered. So I called their support, which was great. And the woman put me on hold for a bit, came back like 10 minutes later. And as soon as she picked up the phone, she was like, white side up. I was like, okay. How did you know that? May I please ask where you found the documentation? And she's like, I looked everywhere. I looked on our website. I even searched YouTube, and there's no info out there. I was like, yeah, that's why I'm calling you. She goes, I finally found a supervisor that had gotten the question before and knew. You put the white side up for the proper orientation of the filter. So after doing that, I was like, well, I got to review the filter then, because that's just hilarious that I think I might be the only person on the internet that very clearly states what direction the filters go in. So that's when I was like, let me just review the whole stupid thing. I got to clean mine out and get them fired up anyway. So yeah, that is my ridiculous review of the week. It was another fun one to do. It was silly, but this one was actually helpful. And I even uploaded a dedicated video on just that filter to Amazon, and the thumbnail just says white side up. So hopefully I can help other people with this one. But yeah, it's an awesome one. Of course, it's out of stock now. The moment I talk about anything, it's out of stock. So whatever, but it was out of stock before I posted the video. But this really is the best one I've ever used for stuff like that. The only other scenario in which I found one to be better was the one I used next to my fireplace. And if you really want me to, I'll gladly do a review on that as well. Let me know if anybody cares about that. But yeah, while this is definitely overkill for bedrooms, if you need one and you can find it in stock somewhere, this is definitely it. And at least now you know the tricks about the filters. Well, that's it for this week. As always, thanks to everybody who watches, listens, plays nicely in the comments, and especially thank you to anybody who supports in absolutely any way, because it really is you who keeps all this stuff going. So thank you all so much, and I'll see you next week. This week's Roundup is brought to you by Neo Paradigm Entertainment, connecting Southeast Asian influencers with opportunities in the West.